Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Mara and I am a yoga teacher and soul coach based in Dubai, and I am very excited to be filming today's video because it is something I truly preach and believe in so much. Today's video is going to be all about slow and soft living and really creating the ability to do less and attract more. And I think this is just something I share so much through everything that I do, and it's something that I truly do believe in with all of my heart. So we're going to be jumping into all things feminine energy, all of those vibes. So when you are ready, grabbing yourself a cup of tea, getting comfy, light a candle, whatever you need to do, and then making your way here so we can get started. Okay, so slow and soft living. I think this is a growing sort of area where we're beginning to learn about it, but it's still quite a small thing that we don't find many people are talking about. And this idea of slow living, I'll be honest, when I first had it, it was very much not appealing. I was like, why would I want to live slowly? I want to move fast. I want to change and grow and do all of these things. And I didn't realize that actually how important it was to slow down. And depending on where you live, you may find that you feel the same. Where I live here in Dubai, everyone is moving at 1,000,000 miles per hour and no one is taking any time for rest, for recovery, for being still, for slowing down, for taking time for themselves. And I feel like what this really creates, and this sort of attitude it creates, is I have to work really, really hard to achieve the things that I want. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with some hard work. There's a time and a place for it. But I think where this becomes an issue is we fall into this idea of life is hard. And I firmly don't believe that life has to be hard. There is undoubtedly moments within our life where things are harder than others. We go through pain, we go through loss, we go through times that feel like turmoil, and that's inevitable. That's just life. But as Buddha once said, pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. And I think this idea of really thinking that life has to be hard, and this mindset of like it's a tough world and it's a tough life, is choosing the path of suffering. It's choosing a hard life. It's choosing to move really quickly and burn yourself out. And this idea of living a little bit more slowly is allowing yourself to slow down, allowing yourself to come home to you, finding pleasure and joy in the smallest of moments. So, for example, that first sip of tea in the morning after a long night's sleep, the first time you light a new candle and the smell fills the air, the mornings maybe when you're on your yoga mat and the room is just filled with so much stillness and magic. And these are the moments that slow living brings. And whilst they may seem so small, I truly do believe that these are the most magnetic moments. We're going to come back to that. But these are the most magnetic moments because through being still and through the rest and rejuvenation and you're creating in those moments, you are then being able to show up as your higher self even more. And I think something really important to consider when we're thinking about slow and soft living is a balance between our yin and yang energies. I'm sure you guys have heard of yin and yang. It's such a popular concept now, and it's definitely been sort of socialized and we all know it. We all know the yin and yang symbol, but this idea of yin and yang is that opposites balance each other out and you need a little bit of both. And our yang energy is our masculine energy. So it's probably what we're all living in. Our masculine energy is very strong, action orientated, powerful. It's always doing. It's a really strong doing energy. It's the easiest way to describe it. It's that feeling of hardness, of pushing. The element is fire. And that is the real attitude around the idea of your yang energy. And don't get me wrong, this hard work, determination and fire is so needed at certain times. Whereas our yin energy is the opposite. It is our feminine energy. It is intuitive, slow, still, soft. It's governed by water. It's governed by the moon as well. So if yang is the sun, yin is the moon. And it's very much this energy of rest and digest, restoring, recovering, but also inner exploration. So that intuition, that developing of our intuition, all of these intuitive practices, our connection to our higher self, all comes from our yin. And I think because of the world we live in, no matter where you are, we live in a very patriarchal society. So this means that the idea of yang is seen as, I can't think of the word. The idea of yang is seen as dominant, and it's seen as the best, basically. And that should be, why can't I think of the word? Superior is the word. The idea of yang is seen as much superior to yin. Everyone wants to be that girl who wakes up at 5 a.m. and goes to the gym and goes on a run and has her green juice and then goes to her 9 to 5 job, but she doesn't actually do a 9 to 5 job. She gets there at 8:30, doesn't leave till 9 o'clock at night because she's a working girl and she's doing everything on her own and she's so independent, and oh my goodness, she's amazing. She is. If that's you, you are rocking it. But that isn't balance. That is life lived in the biggest amount of yang we can even think of. And what ends up happening when we live too much in our yang, and this is obviously happens to men and women, we all have yin and yang energies within us, but women have more yin energy and need more yin energy because it's our energy, right? And the world we live in has told us we need to be more yang and we need to release that yin energy. So what happens when we're constantly living in our yang is that we end up being tired, burnt out, lost, we get ill, we are stressed, we're overwhelmed, we're anxious, and we honestly feel like there's nothing else we can physically do. That's when we're losing the enjoyment for the things that we love. It's when we're spiraling and feeling overwhelmed and all of these things. And this can happen to anyone who's living a lifestyle that is far too yang. And this is where this idea of slow and soft living comes in. And I truly do believe that it is the answer to so many of our issues in the world today. This idea of just slowing down, coming back to yourself, taking a deep breath, tuning inwards, getting in tune with your guidance, getting in tune with your intuition can solve so many problems that feel like huge issues when they're actually not. I firmly do believe this. So this idea of slow living is really around slowing down, being present. But then we have this idea of soft living, and this is something that I really love, and it's a fairly new thing, so you may not have had it before, but this idea of soft living is such a beautiful concept because it's such a feminine way of living. It's the complete opposite to my life has to be hard. It's a sense of if I soften to the world softens around me too. And what if life doesn't have to be hard? I'm making a conscious decision that I don't want my life to be hard anymore. And as I said, sometimes it's inevitable, but a lot of the time we put ourselves in situations where life has to be harder than it actually needs to be. So for example, I will never forget my mum saying something about me a few years ago now, where she was like, Amara will never choose the easy way. Amara always chooses the hardest way to do things. She didn't say it in a bad way. She said it in a way of I was so determined and I wasn't afraid of a challenge, which I'm not, still not. But I will never forget that because it was so obvious to me now that I was actively choosing to make my life harder. I was seeing the easy option and I had this feeling within me that I had to prove myself. So instead of doing the easy option, I couldn't do that because that didn't prove how worthy I was. I needed to choose the hardest option and overcome that to prove to everyone around me how worthy I was. And that in itself is a sad thing. The fact that that inner self-confidence and self-worth wasn't there. I always had to choose the harder option to make myself feel like I was good enough. And you may find that you're the same because the world around us tells us that this is what we should be doing. It shouldn't be easy. If it's easy, you're not trying hard enough or you're not pushing yourself enough. And through yoga and becoming a yoga teacher, and especially through the practice of yin yoga, if you have not practiced yin yoga, I've actually posted a really beautiful one up on my YouTube channel that goes kind of together with this video and the 10-day journey I'm going to tell you guys about at the end. But yin yoga is just so beautiful because it's this idea that you don't have to be better than the day before. Life-changing. This idea that you don't need to always make progress. You don't need to have a better day than you did yesterday. Sometimes you're allowed to just be, whether that be better, whether that be not the same, whether that be worse than the day before, that's okay. And this all comes into this idea of soft living, because it's idea that the feminine is soft, and can we melt into our feminine energy? Because feminine energy is about receiving. When we are in touch with our feminine energy and we slow down, we open ourselves up to receiving more. And that is a really beautiful thing. So when I'm then talking about how we can begin to do less, whether it be work or just social occasions, whatever it be, how we can do less and attract more is through actually doing less. And that's always going to be the first step. We slow down. And in those moments where we slow down, this is our time to come back to ourselves. So for example, coming to a meditation practice, coming to a yin yoga practice, taking time to be present and practice gratitude while you're having your morning cup of tea, whatever it may be. These are the moments where you become the most magnetic, because in those moments you're not trying to be anything that you're not. In those moments you are connected to the most authentically confident and highest version of yourself, because there's no expectations, no one's watching, there's no one to impress or prove yourself to. And it's in those moments that you're going to be connected to the most magnetic version of you. And when we're talking about manifesting and doing things like that, coming from this more feminine space of manifesting is really, in my opinion, where the magic lies, because you can manifest anything. I truly do believe you can manifest anything, and you can do it in your masculine. You can force things, you can push for them, and you can make anything happen. But that doesn't always mean that we should. Sometimes we find that we manifest things that aren't really meant for us, whereas when we're coming to this attracting and manifesting practice from a much more feminine, softer space, we're allowing ourselves to slow down. We're allowing ourselves to tune inwards and follow where our heart is leading us to. And then any manifestation that we create is a heart-led manifestation. And I guarantee you, when it's come in these slower moments, that's when you know it's in alignment with your highest self. And that's when the limits of that manifestation, there are none. You can truly achieve so much and attract so much, and probably more than you could even have dreamed. And that in itself is huge. And I will never, ever, ever stop sharing how huge that is, because it's absolutely everything. And there are so many elements to developing this slightly softer and slower life. And although there are lots of elements, it is, at the end of the day, easy. And I know at first, quite often it doesn't feel easy. There's a lot of healing to be done when we are deciding to slow down, especially if we have told ourselves or have been told that your value lies in how productive you are, your value lies in how much work you can get done in a day. Slowing down can feel really counterintuitive at first, because it's almost like everything you knew, everything that made you a good person, is no longer what you're asking yourself to do. And there's an element of trusting that although it's hard at first, and you would think doing nothing is not hard, but I guarantee you, if you're anything like I was when I first came to this practice of feeling like I always had to be doing, my nervous system was shot. My nervous system was gone. I was overwhelmed, stressed, anxious, like my skin was a mess, my body was in a constant state of stress. Oh my God. So when you first come to this, you may find that the idea of being still is too overwhelming. You may also find that it's within this time that all of the things you run from through constantly doing things begin to come up. And again, with this idea of soft living, what we do when those things come up is we soften to them. We surrender to this slowness and softness showing us where we need to heal. And again, the feminine, the softness is so deeply healing. So know that this healing is going to occur within these moments of slowness and softness, and it's just everything. And then from that healing, we can begin to deepen our intuition. From deepening our intuition, we can truly begin to expand into this higher and better version of ourselves that person that we're always looking like and wishing that we could be like them, we quickly realize that we can, and we can do it in this effortless way. This idea of soft and slow living is ultimately the path of choosing flow over force. And that in itself is just huge. And I think that is just really puts it into perspective of, do you want to be forcing everything and forcing your body to do things you don't want to do, forcing your mind to be in situations you don't want to be in, forcing relationships that don't work for you, forcing yourself to do a job that makes you ill, or to work hours that aren't good for your well-being? Or do you want to allow yourself to flow, to allow your body to settle into its natural rhythm? And I guarantee you that's where the most peace comes in your body. I can say that from experience. But allowing yourself to flow through the day of knowing that I've had enough, I'm tired, I can't do anymore, let me come back to this another time. Allowing relationships to flow as well, and if they find their endpoint, allowing that endpoint to flow and moving through that with grace, and allowing yourself to feel when needed. And this topic is huge, but it boils down to just 3 things. It boils down to slowing down. It boils down to being softer and being in your feminine, your yin. And I honestly think this is it's the missing key. It's the missing key, and it's so sad because the world we live in doesn't appreciate it. And we're told that if we have a slow morning, that's lazy. And we're told that if we're following our intuition and we don't have a logical reason for it, that's wrong and that's illogical, when that is just so unbelievably true. So now that we sort of discussed what slow and soft living is, I want to leave you with a few ideas of how you can begin to call in this slower and softer way of life and what it looks like in your life. So for example, I truly do believe you can start living softer and slower each morning. So instead of waking up 30 minutes before you have to be at work, getting out of bed, getting yourself dressed, jumping in the car and driving to work, maybe grabbing a coffee on a good day, glugging it down before your first meeting, whatever it may be, we can change this. And I guarantee you, I do think mornings hold a certain kind of magic, because when you give back to yourself first, you have so much more to give to everyone else. And again, I say that from experience. When I worked in my corporate job, honestly, if I did not do something for myself in the morning, I was empty. And then I was running below empty for the rest of my day. So this idea of, instead of waking up half an hour before you need to be at work, why don't you wake up an hour before and allow yourself to have your cup of coffee in peace and read a book and be in your yin before you ask your body and throw your nervous system into your yang, masculine, working energy. Something else to be said about that that's really important to consider, and I'll probably post a video all about feminine energy and explaining a little bit more about this as well, is that please remember this world was sort of designed for men, and they have a circadian rhythm, and so do we. But men tend to feel very similarly each day. They don't have their menstrual cycle to work with as well. And our menstrual cycle means that we're going to feel completely different whether we're PMSing or ovulating. They're like 2 different ends of the spectrum, and we're also dealing with that. So when we're thrusting ourselves into this yang energy, we're also going against what our body's natural sort of way of being is. You're throwing your body into more stress on top of what it's already being put through hormonally naturally as well. So yes, taking that time in the morning can be a really beautiful way to start living a little bit more slowly and a little bit more softly. And something I also think is huge is calling in more of these intuitive practices, because your intuition is your feminine, it's your yin, it's this softness. So as you begin to tune into your intuition and build your intuition, you can really begin to call in those practices. So as I mentioned, yin yoga, there is a lovely yin yoga practice up on my YouTube channel, which is exactly for this purpose. Also, meditation practices are really beautiful. Starting your spiritual practices, because our connection to our intuition as women is much deeper than the masculine, right? The feminine is all about intuition and healing. So deepening those spiritual practices, whether it be through yoga, meditation, oracle cards, whatever it is, really allowing yourself to dive into those will really help you to deepen your intuition, and ultimately then allowing that intuition to guide you on what comes next, to guide you on which areas of your life you're being called to expand, to take up more space, to be more confident, to take risks, to channel your more yang masculine energy into. And that is huge. And I do really think this idea of healing and then building your intuition and then allowing yourself to expand is huge, because this is when it all comes from your yin, your more feminine. And when we are in our more feminine, we are attracting more, because we are receiving energy. Things come to the feminine, right? Things come to the feminine, whereas the masculine is all about giving, which is beautiful. Masculine energy is so divinely beautiful as well, but it's all about giving. So if you want to get things through the masculine, it's through doing an awful lot. Whereas through the feminine, we're all about receiving. So it's asking you to sit in your feminine and be so strong in who you are, in this feminine soft energy, and allow what's meant for you just to find you. And honestly, it works. I can say that. My life right now looks completely different than it did a year ago, through remembering this connection to the feminine and working with this connection to the feminine and slowing down and becoming softer. It's honestly everything, and that's what I shared through yoga as well, and I just think it's so powerful. Okay, I think I have rattled on quite a bit for today's video, but if this is something that you're interested in and you want to dive into, I do actually have a completely free 10-day challenge called Magnetic Moments, and this is a journey that's going to take you through how to live softer and more slowly, and it's also going to give you 10 days worth of slow living and soft living activities. So there is card readings, yoga practices, journaling, there's tea rituals and bath rituals, and this is just an unbelievably feminine and soft space. And it is, I truly do think I have created it to be the first step for you to start doing less and attracting more. So if that is something you're interested in, it is completely free. The link will be down in the description below. But otherwise, I am sending you so much love. If you do anything today, take a deep breath, slow down, allow yourself to be present, allow yourself to be still, allow yourself to be soft, and know that everything will work out in the highest good. If I can give you one message to go with, that would be it. Otherwise, I am sending you so much love, and if you liked this video, please like it, subscribe, join my community. You can also follow me on Instagram at Amara Thompson, but otherwise, I will see you in my next video. I am sending you so much love.